Thanks for waiting until it started to do that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, had to do it.
Did you do it on purpose?
Had to do it
How was your Easter
term.
weekend?
Technically, it's still happening.
True.
It's been an odd one. My sleeping pattern has probably been the weirdest it's ever been ever.
Go on.
I stayed up till 5 in the morning.
You playing something?
I was just playing mobile games.
Yeah, you're a loser. What? Okay, is the new one come
Wow.
out?
It has. It's not that good.
But you play. But you played it
No, I'm
anyway.
just playing this like Naruto really shitty thing basically. But I was
Okay.
just like sort of obsessed with it. I was in that mode where I just cannot be asked to go to sleep.
Okay.
So I just kept going.
Was it a Is it a gacha game?
Yeah,
Gotcha
it's a
game.
gacha thing. It's like a really like terribly made little thing, but it's I play these kind of little like this. It's weird. Like you'll get these really budget gacha games come out every so often that have these giant IPs surrounding them,
Sure.
and because they're like really not great, but they actually like play fairly well.
Mhm.
And this one plays pretty well, so I can usually tell within the first 10-15 minutes whether or not it's actually going to be any good. And this one was actually pretty decent. So yeah.
Cool.
So yeah.
All right. Well, let's get underway, Jables. Might be a bit of a short
Please.
one this week, but that's okay. That's okay. So, to begin with, where's she gone? How many men does Black Widow get past in the corridor scene in Iron Man 2 whilst Happy fights with just one? This is a great question.
That is because I know the exact scene. That's actually her first scene in a Marvel movie.
Is it?
That was her first introduction into the Marvel series. Yeah.
That's cool. So I've got A18, B11, C6, or D3.
I was gonna say 12, so I'm gonna go with 11.
Correct answer, Jay. Very well done. Very well done.
Yeah, I knew it was around a dozen. I don't know how I knew that. I just knew it was.
Very well done.
Yeah, I don't know how the hell I knew that. That's a very odd one.
Okay. So, what have you been playing? Actually, no. Sorry, I'll jump into Achievement Archive first. So, a little something we like to do, Jay, at the moment. It's called Achievement Archive. We dive into the achievements of your achievements and look at some old games, basically.
That's
Just
one way of
remember
putting
a
it.
little
Yeah.
bit about these things. Now, the 3 games we've got this week, Jay, are big hitters. I think the next few are actually like juicy, very, very juicy.
Juicy.
So the first one we've got today, Gears of War 1.
Mm.
So I feel like I've talked about that quite a lot, Jay. So tell me what your thoughts, feelings, memories are of Gears of War 1 off the bat.
Gears of War was a funny one because I feel like I was introduced to Gears by you. I want to say.
Really?
Yeah, I have a feeling Gears came out, and I wasn't really on the pulse of it. And then I remember you playing it, and you were like, "You need to play this game." So I was like, "Okay." So I went and bought it.
Huh.
I think I didn't actually play Gears 1 until Gears 2 had already come out.
Really?
From what I can remember, I could be way off. Yeah, but Gears just was not on my radar. Didn't really
Okay.
seem like my kind of game. It's funny. I'm trying to remember what year did Gears come out? 2000.
6 or 7?
Yeah, I don't know. So how old were we? We were like 11, 12.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I don't know why, but Gears always seemed like not like a scary game, but like it felt a lot more horrific than it actually is. And I think my age might have had something to do with it. I don't know. Hard to
2006.
say.
100%, mate. Like, if you look at the front cover, it looks like the sort of
Plus, it
game
was an
where you play
18,
in
right?
hell. Yeah, and it's an
Yeah,
18.
so like in my
Yeah.
mind, it's pretty gory too. So, I mean, I don't think it was necessarily good for us to play that at that age. It definitely had somewhat of an effect, I'm sure. But you know, yeah, no, I probably didn't play it until like I say, maybe Gears 2 had already been out. It's a tough one because I feel like I don't really have. I don't think I don't have think I got good at gaming until like fairly recently. In some degrees, like, I feel like I've almost always been good at Call of Duty or like first person shooters, but Gears was a third person shooter, And I'm trying to remember if there was any third-person shooters that I'd played also. I mean, there aren't really that many third-person shooters, are there?
I mean, not at that time. I feel like
No,
there's a
I feel
lot
like
more
this was probably
now.
one of the first instances of third-person shooting that sort of came into the mainstream.
None come to mind easily. Let's just put it
Yeah.
like that.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it was almost maybe my first because I really started to like heavy metal, sort of
Yeah,
around like age 9, 10.
yeah.
So I'd already sort of like understood like the like that kind of like the way things were like envisioned, I guess, like that came with the music. So I sort of seen that, and that had piqued my interest because I thought, oh, it seems like quite a metal game, I guess. And so that definitely made me think it was cool. But I think I need to go back and play Gears One, to be honest, because I don't think I appreciated it then for what it was necessarily. The only thing I'm trying to remember was the train scene in Gears One, or was that Gears
Yeah,
Two?
at the
Yeah,
end. Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
is, yeah. So I think that's probably my most memorable part of that was the train bit. And I remember that was the bit that you spoke about the most. Like you just kept going on about it, and I was like, "Why? It must be a good bit of the game, I guess." That's probably my like the most vivid part of it. And then I guess the other part of it is just how I hated the movement. Like the movement in that game is awful. The worst thing about Gears is the movement.
Are
Like
you
having to go from cover to
crazy?
cover. It was awful. It was really janky.
Do you mean as in the transition from one cover to another?
Yeah, like doing that sort of like duck and run. Like it just felt very rigid. It didn't feel very flowy. But then I think as I got older, once Gears 2 and 3 came out, I realized that you had to like dodge and do certain things and understand movement. Like it got better. I'd say by Gears 3, I like didn't mind it,
Yeah,
but
sure.
it's definitely I still wouldn't. I don't prefer it. I'll tell you that right now. It's not preferable. But
Interesting.
no, I mean Gears is sort of like a. I don't necessarily feel nostalgic for it necessarily. I guess it's just like it feels more like a stepping stone on the way to where I am now more than anything else. It feels like something that I can say, "Oh yeah, I played that," and that's probably part of the reason why I like this, and this, and and why I appreciate good mobility in games because that game did not have good mobility.
Interesting.
It was also I think one of my first instances of me being frustrated at a game for dying so much because of the mobility, probably more than likely. I guess did you have a similar experience?
No, to be blunt.
No. Okay.
No. Gears is one of those key titles for me, a bit like Assassin AC1, where I'm like, this is golden 360 time.
All
And
right.
so as I mentioned earlier, Jay, like the front cover to me has always looked like do you play in hell? Like it just looks
Okay.
like I don't even know. I mean, it's such a different thing, right? There's a guy with a gun with
That's
a
the point.
chainsaw on
Actually,
the
it
end
does
of it
seem very
with
hellish, doesn't it?
squad
Yeah.
armor, and there's like flames in the background. It just like, and like you say, that 18 rating with the trailer made it almost become this notorious like, what the fuck is this game? Like when I remember started playing it, I was like, oh, so it is actually based on an Earth-like planet, and oh, there actually are humans on it. Like, because I was so surprised because just looking at the game, I'm like, I have no idea what this game is about. But obviously, jumping into it, learning about, I know it's called Gears of War, but just it being a third-person post-apocalyptic type game, it was absolutely one of the key titles for 360 for me. Obviously, I definitely think one of the best Gears games. If you want to talk about it in that sense, for me, Gears 3 campaign. After recently playing it, no good, no good. Gears
No.
2 campaign, probably my fave, but Gears
Yeah,
1
I
has
think I
got a
agree.
special place.
I think Gears 2 might be one of the small exceptions where the sequel is better than the original overall, just because it's just like a general improvement. I think Division obviously comes into that as well,
Sure, sure.
and I imagine Horizon probably comes into that as well. But I will have to let you know on that one.
No,
See what
no
happens, and
worries.
probably Spider-Man too. I imagine.
Hopefully,
There's so
hopefully,
many good sequels. I feel like that are either coming or have been.
hopefully. But
Mm.
yeah, it's obviously a really special place for me. Jay, I can't remember if we actually talked about the Pimp My Ride game.
Okay, what about it?
Do you remember anything about it at all?
Yes.
Go on.
There was a mode in the game called Ghost Ride My Whip. Do you know this?
No.
So this is a thing. I don't know. You've seen Fast and Furious, right?
Yeah, kinda.
Part of that culture back in sort of the early 2000s was there was like certain cars where you could literally like put your car in like a certain mode, like a certain drive mode, and have it drive very, very slowly and creep along, and you would almost like dance beside it. There was actually a trend of this a couple of years ago on TikTok. Do you remember this, where people would like get out of their car, do a dance to a certain song while their car was slowly crawling along, and they would film outside of the car? Do you
Yeah,
remember
that
this?
rings a bell. That
Yeah,
rings a
so
bell.
this was
Yeah, yeah.
actually a thing that happened in the early 2000s that people would do that. And they would like, ghost ride the whip is what they would call it. Like
Oh
ghost
my
riding is
god.
sort of like it would go by itself and you would sort of show your car off as it went along kind of thing. And there was a mode where you had to like press certain buttons. What do they call it? QTE? Yeah, it was like a QTE sort of almost like
Sure.
a Guitar Hero type mode where you'd like a rhythm game almost. I remember that being a thing.
So was there different modes in the game?
Honestly, that's about as much as I can remember. I remember
Well,
playing it and then being like, "This game shit," and then like stopping playing it immediately.
I'm just watching
I was
some gameplay
obsessed
on YouTube.
with Pit My Ride. I think I've probably seen every single episode, more than likely.
What happened to the show? Why did it end?
It just ended. I think there was like
Okay.
20 series or something.
So it's quite a lot then.
Yeah, I mean, it just kept going. I mean, Exhibit's only going to do it for so long.
Yeah, sure. I can see the rhythm-based game that you're
Because
talking about on this
Tim Westwood did the
YouTube.
UK version. Did you ever watch that one?
No.
Yeah, there was Pimp My Ride UK, and Tim Westwood was the was the host of it. My
Interesting.
dad's gonna laugh so hard at that one. I can already tell.
Very
Oh
good.
god.
So I assume the main core of the game was modifying your car then, no?
Yeah, I
Like,
probably. You probably got like a car, and it came in. And you probably modified it to look, you pimped it or whatever.
I mean, the game doesn't actually look that terrible online.
I don't know. It's been a while. What 2006 that game came out? 2005 maybe.
Yeah. I
I think
mean, it
I
looks
think it genuinely
boring.
was one of the first. I think it might have been a release title for 360. Honestly.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cray cray. Okay, cool. All right. And the last one for today, Jay. Again, another huge game for both of us, I think. Fable 2.
Oh wow. Okay. I didn't know where you were going to go with that one. Sure. What's the word? Arguably better than Fable One.
Yeah, in some
Arguably, I
instances.
think I had
Yeah.
again. It's a similar thing to Gears One, Gears Two. I think I didn't appreciate Fable One until Fable Two had come out. I was like, oh, okay, now I understand. I get why things were the way they were. But honestly, Fable has not aged well. It's probably
Harsh
one of the
words.
worst aged games I've ever played in my life. It aged awfully.
I think the lack of polish really shows today.
Oh, 100%. It's awful looking now. I don't think you could pay me to play it now.
I get what you mean.
It's really not. It's not even
It's still
funny
got a
how bad
charm
it
to it,
is.
though, I think, for
I'd
sure.
say Fable 3 is probably obviously the better looking, but I think there's actually some mechanics in Fable 3 that supposedly Starfield is going to have similar economic um, mechanics from Fable 3. I might have to link you the video, but there's this guy who makes Starfield content, and he made a comparison between Fable 3's economic system
Yeah,
and the potential of Starfield's economic system being
that'd be
very similar.
really cool. That would be really cool.
Because
That
there was
just
the thing about buying houses, weren't there? Do you remember
yeah,
this?
just very quickly on that. Yeah, so basically, if you played Fable 1 and you killed a villager, you then find out their house can go on sale. And then
Yeah,
you can find out you can buy the house and then actually rent it out and then
yeah.
get money over time. So if you did what me and I assume you did, Jay, maybe not, is that you kill everyone and you basically own the entire fucking game and you rent it out and you become super dirt rich.
So I
And they
think
actually
that
implemented that
was
into Fable 2 as an actual system.
And Fable. Yeah, actually, was it
And
Fable
Fable
2 or Fable
3.
3? I think they might have done it both, but I think they had evolved it by time from the later games where you didn't need to kill everyone, but you could just do it straight away.
Yeah.
But what you
Yeah.
could do is you could sort of work your way up, almost like a landlord. Like you could buy all the cheap stuff and eventually build up enough money to then have all the better stuff and then be infinitely rich, basically. I mean, in Fable 3,
100%.
it was all about the royalty, right? So it kind of made sense. No, it's a really,
100%.
really good system, and they're gonna. I feel like that from this guy's video, he sort of, had some evidence as to potentially them using it or using a similar system in Starfield. Man, I honestly, Starfield is going to get so fucking in depth. From this guy's video, I've watched probably about 30 hours of videos on Starfield so far, and we
Oh,
haven't even seen
Jesus.
anything yet.
Oh, God.
This is
Okay.
all like most of it is speculation and very good speculation too.
Sure.
I mean, I've been
Sure.
doing some research. I'll tell you what. Oh God, we're so far
Sure.
away from it as well.
Well, in terms of Fable 2, at least, yeah. Oh, man, I was watching the do you remember when you could download vidocs on 360 at all? Like you can
I
literally download like trailers and vidocs from the store, and it's literally, I've rewatched, counting down the days for
I
Fable 2
don't
to
think
come
I
out.
remember that. No, I don't remember
So I remember that it came out on a Friday. I ordered it.
that.
I remember speaking to you on the Friday after
Just
biology or
funny.
something.
I have the game guide for that game somewhere.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I remember I was like a big guide person. I'd always buy the guide for a game. I probably have like 30 game guides just lying about somewhere.
They might
I
be
think I
worth
got. I think I
something,
got. Yeah, I think I got rid of most of them. I haven't really looked after them very well, but
Fair.
the ones I have looked after is like Cyberpunk. I've still got the thing for that. So
And then Fable, it didn't come until the Saturday morning, but man, when that
I
fucking
remember
game
because you
came,
complained. I remember you talking about that. Jesus,
yeah,
you went on about that for ages.
I
Like
did.
you were playing the game on like, but you were still pissed about it on the Monday. You were like, I can't believe it took that long to come.
That is true.
That's
Very impatient,
hilarious.
but
That's hilarious.
yeah, dude, Fable 2 just hit like
Yeah,
at the
at the
time,
time,
it
yeah,
was like exactly what I wanted and
it was the
more.
pinnacle. It was literally like
Yeah,
exact. I remember, like, again, you introduced me to Fable, and I mean, that's just one of those ones where I think Fable was probably like one of the first instances of like RPG, like Western RPG, I guess, like the sort of evolution of it. I was actually by that point I was fairly used to just Japanese RPG, which I still think I prefer Japanese RPG over Western RPG,
I
but
get you.
still.
Well, Fable's notoriously British, right? Which is
Yeah, exactly. A
probably why we
Lionhead, right?
like it too. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's great. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
So Jay, I remembered what you said about last time we recorded, and you said the news is your favorite part. So why don't we move straight on to the news,
Yeah. One thing.
please?
Did you have a look at that charger link I sent you?
I did not.
No. Yeah. Oh man, this charger is good.
Okay.
This battery charger thing, like I've only just had the battery run out and I hadn't even charged it. Like it's lasted me forever.
Okay, I'll check out now.
Although to be honest, I haven't really been playing a lot, so I can't really judge. But I'll be able to do a proper test end of April, beginning of May when I have my time off.
So you get 2 batteries with it.
Yeah, you get 2 batteries and a charger. Hang on.
I mean, there's a lot of good reviews.
Yeah, it's 2600, which I think is like one of the larger batteries.
Sure.
You get the charger that comes with it, and then the actual cable for the charger is like built in. Look, built in,
Wow.
so it folds out.
Where do you just plug it into a plug?
Yeah, it's USB, so you just put it in the front of your Series X and it'll charge. Although it does have different connectors at the top, so it's got like other possible.
Oh yeah, I see that. Yeah.
If that one conks out, you can then buy a new thing for those.
Cool.
So I'm hoping that it's going to last me a while. That if the last one lasted me like 10 years, this one should at least last me 10.
Let me know how
Although
it goes. I won't make them purchase just yet.
Yeah,
I've
I
got
think
Amazon Basics already. But
once I play Dead Island and Star Wars and Redfall, I'll be able to test it properly and actually figure out how long it lasts. I'll be able to do a pretty good, accurate test. So I'll try it out then.
Sick.
Cool.
All right, J-Balls, let's move on to the news. 3 for 3 this week. Big news. E3 has been cancelled.
It certainly has, yeah.
So this comes by way of them, I assume. Yes,
Yeah.
Entertainment Software Association announced today to its members that E3 has been cancelled. So, Jay, please take it away.
Well, yeah. So I mean, we sort of saw it coming. People were pulling out. I think PlayStation pulled out first. Microsoft was shortly after.
Then Ubisoft, right?
Yeah, Ubisoft were like back and forth. They were like, "We are coming," but actually, we're not coming.
Mm.
And then yeah, I think Sega potentially pulled out like right at the last second, and then they were like, "Right, that's it. Nobody's coming." So there's not very much point. I think there's a couple things to be said. Really, I think the indie developers might suffer very slightly because they're probably the ones that had the most draw, I guess, or the most benefit from something like E3. Although I was actually watching the Skill Up podcast with Alana on it
Yeah.
earlier, and they were talking about the E3 thing, and they were saying about how COVID was probably like the main reason this whole thing happened. Because I think it got cancelled 2019, no
2020,
2020,
2021.
and then
Did
I
it?
think they did an online thing for last year and didn't do very well.
And you think they think that's what's triggered it?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we're talking like millions for a stand,
Sure.
to like showcase
Sure.
off your stuff, and that's like the cheap. Millions is cheap.
Sure.
Um, and I mean, I've said it before. Like, they realized they could do their own show, have it be infinitely cheaper, and then also monetize the stream that they
Mm.
do the stream from
Mm.
potentially. So yeah, I know Jeff Keighley obviously jumped on it. Like literally, I think within 10 minutes of the announcement of E3 being cancelled, he was already advertising Summer Games Fest, Game Awards, like all of the stuff he does.
That seems a bit
Well, if anything, I think it's probably a good thing. It's like, yep, it's me now. I'm the guy. I
I'm the
kind of
new
respect it,
E3,
honestly.
bitch. Yeah,
I kind of
sure.
respect it. I'm kind of like, yeah, man. Like, you're the guy. Like, you've seen Spy Kids 3, right?
I have, yeah.
The guy. Jeff is the guy. Like,
Sure.
he's now the head of gaming uh, events, I guess.
For both major parts of the year, middle
Yeah.
and end. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like that's it now. It's evolved.
It certainly has.
Times have changed. You know.
Yeah.
I think they were talking about how the biggest letdown is like sort of E3 almost felt like that part of the year where it was almost like I think their exact words were it was like a slumber party, like it was almost like a sleepover. Like you'd enjoy that week. It was like a week long sleepover that you have with friends. You could just chat about gaming and what was going to happen, kind of thing.
Sure.
Like it was a bit of a party almost. But I mean, we're still going to have that. It's just drawn out a lot longer.
Yeah.
And we also get to pick exactly what we want to see rather than having to wade through all the crap, as it were.
It's the end of an era,
Mm.
and it's sad because, like you say, Jay, like all the politics, opinions, whatever you want to put aside, this has been, the best time of the year for me and you for like 15 years. Like there is no way I'm coming home and like a few, key presentations have been on and I'm not going to watch them as soon as I possibly can. It just is what it is.
I think over the last year or maybe 2 years, I've probably watched every single presentation that's been out, like Ubisoft, PlayStation, Microsoft. I've watched, I think, maybe almost every single Nintendo Direct. Yeah, I think they're almost like so many different events now. Like it just becomes a part of like having to keep your eye on social media just in case there's an announcement of something.
Totally.
Be like,
Totally.
right, I got to make sure I watch this live stream. I mean, we've even got the bloody Starfield one on June 11th, I think.
Sure.
We've got Starfield on June 11th, and we've got Ubisoft on June 12th. Like, I think the beginning of June is I think June 2nd is officially the kicking off season of gaming, because we've got Diablo 4 comes out, Street Fighter comes out, and then it's all the announcement directs basically, like showcases right after. So it's like E3 kicks off beginning of June, if you ask me.
And
Also
in regards to it is what a time. And in regards to the cancellation of E3, Jay, I think, as I say, sad, But at the same time,
But
we'll miss the nostalgia of it, but are we genuinely gonna miss, the awkward humor,
yeah,
the
that was the funny
awkward
thing, wasn't it? I feel like everyone
creatures?
always looked forward to see like what cringiness would happen at E3.
Such
It was
cringe.
about what could possibly go wrong, and that there was always something that went awry, and it was just hilarious. Like,
Yeah, the cringiness, the weird
ah,
humor,
that was
like
why
we'll have a
cringy. Yeah,
nostalgia for it, but I genuinely think the state of play for me is and the Nintendo Direct for what that's worth. Even though I hate all the games that Nintendo show, I think that's the perfect delivery for me. Like trailer, 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 info, trailer, 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 info, release date, done. You know what I mean?
yeah, and then potentially surprise announcement.
Right.
Potential many surprise announcements, and then we obviously had at the beginning of the year we had the Xbox Developer Direct,
Mm.
which potentially they may have more and more of that now. I don't know
Yeah.
whether that's going to be like a one-time thing or it's going to be more often. I think they said that it was going to be more often, but
I
I don't
think
know.
that's the message we got, but I guess we'll see. We'll see. Jay, this. Oh, I'll go on to this one first.
Go on then.
You texted me the other day. Star Wars Jedi Survivors file size, specifically the PS5 file size. This
Yeah, so
comes by
I'm a bit
way
confused
of
about this
Push
because I,
Square, by the way. Sorry, please
as
go on.
far as I've seen, that this 155 gig is just PC, but supposedly console is supposed to still be over 100 gig. So I don't
Well,
think it's exactly 155, but
let's pause on
I
the
can't quite find the exact number. But it's definitely over 100 apparently.
well. Let's pause it for a sec then. Why is it 155 on PC? Is that because you need to install the best file size, in terms of graphics, all of that? Do you need to
Yeah,
install the best in order to download it, so to speak?
I don't know the ins and outs if I'm totally honest, but this sort of led me to like a certain place in my head where I was like, is this gonna be the new norm in terms of next generation gaming? Like, is every true next gen game gonna be well over 100 gig? So I feel like most games we play nowadays are sort of anywhere sort of between 40 and 80 gigs, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like like if you download a game like a AAA game now, it's more than likely going to be anywhere between 40 and 80. Like I think Cyberpunk is like 86, oh no, 76.
Sure,
Um, Wo Long was like 55, I think.
sure.
Um, I think Dead Island's supposed to be around 45. Like it's like whatever, but you can usually tell, I guess, how I don't know how graphical the game's going to be by the size of it, because obviously you need more size of a game usually means more assets,
Hmm.
which usually means better graphics a lot of the time. Sometimes, or just a bigger game in general. I'm not even sure, um, but yeah, is this going to be the new norm? Do we think? Like, is it because there's so many more polygons or whatever?
Well, I guess the norm has gone from 8 to 10 gigs or 6 to 10 to 10 to 40 to 40 to 80, as you say, Jay. It's more
Yeah, but
likely
is
than
it now
not the
going to be
most
80 to 160?
right. I guess it will be a wait and see. But then we also had a counterpoint to this whole notion, which is that actually some developers have reduced file size. And I don't mean Destiny 2 get rid of content. I mean Sea of Thieves Rare. They actually reduce the size of the game, install size of the game.
Huh.
So I don't know how they do that. But I get your point and I get your concern as well, because I know the classic example is Modern Warfare and
I was going to say
Warzone
it's been like
being.
120 for ages, isn't it, or something? Yeah, it's so
But
big.
frankly, that is a massive game, and you're talking about Call of Duty, which is one of the biggest games of the year. So I don't know. I don't know. I think file sizes were going to be generally bigger because of the graphics, like you say, Jay. Like if you've got to download 4K graphics, I assume that'll be bigger, right? And all the rest of
Yeah.
it, bigger, 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 bigger. But hopefully the ratio should roughly be the same because we've got bigger memory. And to be honest with you, like leading to the point of, oh, is this going to be a problem? Well, I micromanage my install so that it's never a problem. I don't know about you, but
Yeah, no, I do too. I was just thinking this potentially might have been the reason why this generation of console was sold with the sort of caveat of, oh, by the way, you can buy extra storage.
like straight away, like off
Yeah,
the
like
bat.
I remember
Yeah,
even when
sure.
they were marketing it, they were like, oh, by the way, there's going to be like a Seagate extra thing you could buy for it if you want to for like however much. It was like an extra half a terabyte or whatever it was.
Sure.
And it was kind of like, well, at the time I was like, is that going to be necessary? Like, do people really going to have like 2 terabytes worth of games on their thing? I mean, it doesn't really seem very likely, but now it's seeming a bit more likely.
Mm.
Because you'd think also, I think there might be a point in time where games are larger because of the graphics. Because of the graphics. But then usually what happens over time is that the technology will be able to compress those file sizes down so that overall you'd probably get a more median of a file size. Like let's say that a 120 gig file size game would probably be closer to like 80 or 90 in like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years time. Just because they're able to compress the size a bit better. Like I feel like some files just can't be compressed nowadays because we don't have the technology for it. But I imagine in the future they probably will be.
Agreed.
I don't know.
I hope so. But yeah, when you sent me that, I was a little bit shocked. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't know.
Yeah.
A game like
I'm just trying to think why Star Wars though? Why is
it's
that
got to
the
be
first
graphic
time we've
fidelity,
heard,
right? Yeah, it's got to be though. Like
such a
graphic
big
fidelity. Is it next
like
gen
how big
only?
was? Oh, that's a good question.
I think
How
it
big
is,
was
right? I think it is
was
next gen
Fallen
only.
Order? Have a look. Jedi Survivor.
Jedi Survivor. Yeah, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series. That's it. So
Mm.
maybe you're right, Jay. Maybe because it's next gen only, this will be one of the first games.
Like the actual first true next gen game.
We've had.
I know we've definitely had a couple, but in terms of like with the evidence of it being such a big game as well.
Yeah, I mean Elden Ring's next gen only, right? I think is it? I don't even know anymore. It's all a blur. It's all a blur. I can't remember. Alas. Are you okay if we move on, Jay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. This game surprised me when you texted me about this as well. Shared in a tweet, Final Fantasy 16's gone gold.
It has, which is good. It's good news.
It's great news.
That it's. I mean, they did an hour-long presentation at PAX. I don't know if you watched that. We mentioned it last week.
I didn't.
Yeah, they basically said then about how the game is definitely coming out when we say it's coming out. There's no delay. Don't worry. And then I think literally a week after they had that presentation was when the announcement for the gold thing happened. So they were pretty sure about it, which is funny because I remember when they were doing the presentation and the gameplay stuff, they were like crossing their fingers that the game wouldn't freeze. I was like, well, why are you worried about the game freezing?
Well, how do you know that they were worried though?
Because they were talking about it. Because they finished
weird.
the gameplay segment and the director was like, "Oh, thank God it didn't freeze," and I was like, "Hang on, I can't imagine the game would freeze if it was ready or close to ready."
Maybe it was just a joke. Maybe.
No, I think he was pretty serious about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate it when people like. I genuinely think games nowadays are released underbaked every time, regardless of whether the company will say they're actually done with it or not. I don't think a single game has come out that I can remember that's come out baked.
Sure, yeah.
What was the last game that actually came out and it worked straight away?
Elden Ring worked pretty well, right?
Yeah, that's probably a good example. Elden Ring. Actually, to be honest, Wolong. There was no issue with Wolong.
Okay.
That didn't need any patches or anything. I remember the first patch for that game came out maybe 2 or 3 weeks after, and they were like, "Yeah, we're just gonna tweak a few things."
I know what you're saying though. That polish is not a normal thing at the Mo.
It seems to be that everyone's just trying to get things out. I think because of COVID, there was obviously like a year-long delay, which basically made it so all these games that were supposed to make a certain amount of money by a certain amount of time have now been delayed by a year. So they've had to waste a year's worth of money. So they've now got to make extra. So they're pushing it out sooner, so they get the money sooner. But it's actually hurting the game overall and the sales overall. So they're sort of having a negative effect. Really?
Well, we'll see. I mean, I know we don't know everything once a game's gone gold in terms of like timing, but the fact that it's coming out mid-June, it's gone gold now, you would really hope that the game's going to be pretty well polished, wouldn't you?
I mean, it's Final Fantasy. They can't really afford to release a game and it not be pretty much perfect on release.
Well, 15 was notoriously had so many patches; it was almost a different game after the.
Yes, this is very true.
You know
But
what I
I
mean?
think that was, although is 16 being made by the same people?
No, no, it's not. No, 16 is being made by the people who made 14.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's funny actually. The biggest comparison between um, 16 and 15 and the previous Final Fantasy games is that 16 is basically Final Fantasy 14 and 10, but made into a solo experience. Because obviously 10 and 14 were MMOs, but imagine those games if they were campaign games, like solo campaign games. That's basically what 16 is, apparently. I think they just realized that how popular 14 is, and they've been like, why don't we just make this into a campaign solo experience, and then it'll make us much money, right?
Sure.
So they're just testing that out, it seems like.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried actually. We're not ever going to go back to turn-based. I think that's it now for Final Fantasy. We're never going to see a turn-based one ever again.
But that might be okay, Jay, because, well, one, you might see a spin-off Final Fantasy turn-based game, but also you'll have other JRPGs that will be turn-based for sure. I mean, look at Persona 5, you know?
And Riser, I'll tell you, Riser, one of the game that I like. The third one just came out, and I'll be playing that when it's on your wish list. That is on my wish list, and it's very turn-based, and I like it for that.
Have reviews been okay?
I haven't really looked actually. I haven't really bothered.
Okay, all right.
But I know it's going to be good because 1 and 2 were great.
So. All right, fair play. Yeah. This gives me a lot of hope that 16 will be really well polished, and like you say, Jay, it needs to be well polished. 15.
Yeah. I mean, I booked some. By the way, I booked time off work for the rest of this year. So I've got, obviously, I've told you, beginning of March for these 3 games that are coming out. I've booked off end of June for Final Fantasy 16, not the beginning of June for Diablo 4, because I thought, well, I'll be able to play that whenever. And then beginning of September for Starfield.
Cool.
Because, yeah, that's like a must at this point.
Yeah, totally.
Which is annoying because chances are Spider-Man's going to come out right after and I'm not going to be able to be home for it.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. So I think, 15 worked out for us, Jay, because like we played it years after. I think we both did. We played it years after it was out. So by the time we got to it, like it was like all, the dust was settled.
That's what's funny about coming back to games is that by the time you come back to them, they've already finished with their entirety of patches, and they're probably the best they're ever going to be.
Exactly.
Although I think that's somewhat backwards for Cyberpunk, honestly. I've made this argument before about how I genuinely think the first week of Cyberpunk was the best possible time to ever play it. I think once they started to patch it, it actually got worse. I think now it's probably better than when it first came out. But when it first came out, it was perfect.
I know it's during that period of patches. Yeah, sure.
As soon as the first patch happened, I was like, the games does not work anymore. It's so strange.
Sure.
Yeah,
I get that.
But we're still waiting on FF13's remaster.
Is that rumored? Is that confirmed?
It's the only Final Fantasy game that hasn't had a re-release, other than obviously the other, like 13.2 and Returns or whatever.
The only one.
The only ones. Every single Final Fantasy game has had a re-release or a remaster, apart from 13, 13.2,
and they make that a Lightning trilogy, right? Surely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are you gonna like play that from ground zero? Like if that
comes out, if they do a remaster, I'll probably play it. I don't know. It would have to be like a good enough remaster.
Yeah, that's gonna need something good with it, I think, to justify that.
Let's just put it this way: if they put the 16 graphics onto 13, it would genuinely be the best game of all time, in my mind at least. Because 13 is my favorite game.
Nah, I think they'll upgrade the graphics, but I'm not. I mean, to be fair, Jay, those graphics hold up really well.
I mean, they'd have to have nothing else going on.
Sure.
They do hold up pretty well, actually, yeah, surprisingly.
I guess, 13's not beloved by a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah, strangely. Because it is the best one. It's still my favourite Final Fantasy game.
There you go. All right, Jay. Well, talk to me about what you've been playing at the moment and what you want to talk about this week. So I know we've already discussed file size next gen, I believe, if that's not... Yeah. You've also got IGN bad Redfall gameplay?
Yes, I don't know if you've seen this. Have you seen the controversy surrounding this?
No, but please tell me.
Okay, so about 4 or 5 days ago,
Okay.
IGN released an IGN first video, about 3.5 minutes long,
Okay.
of someone at IGN, more than likely, getting to play like a preview build of the game and them showing off about 3 minutes worth of gameplay.
Okay.
And it was probably the worst gameplay showcase I've ever seen in my life. Like it literally, imagine like passing the controller to like a toddler and being like, "Do you want to play?" And then them just sort of mucking around with it. That's genuinely what it was like.
Whoa.
It's bad. And then I thought to myself, there's no like either I'm crazy for thinking this, or the rest of the gaming community agrees with me. So I checked, and lo and behold, it's trending on Twitter. What the hell's going on with this video?
Are we talking like that
multiple...
Cuphead jump bad? Are we talking like?
Yeah. like
I'll have to have a look
embarrassing.
at it.
Like it's
Okay.
got so many downvotes on it. It's insane.
Well, so what? How do you know how many
Basically, like,
downvotes it's got? By the way.
Okay. So they got rid of the dislike. So okay, YouTube had obviously the like and the dislike buttons.
Yes.
They still have them, but they got rid of the amount of numbers you can see for how many dislikes a video has.
Okay.
Because they thought that was toxic. Basically, they were like,
Sure.
we don't want people to be able to know how many downvotes this thing has got. So about a week after that happened, someone had made a modification extension for the browser that let you see exactly how many downvotes a video had. So on my browser, I have an extension that lets me know how many numbers of dislikes a certain video has now.
Oh.
And yeah, I think it has like, I want to say 10k downvotes and like maybe a k 1,000 upvotes or something.
Huh. Okay.
So yeah, a lot of people watched it. Like all the comments of people like, "Is someone's little brother playing this game? I don't understand what's going on."
Is it really that bad?
Like it's kind of annoyingly like all I've seen comment wise are people being like, "This made me not want to get the game." Like it made the game look bad, which I thought was funny because a lot of the sort of content creators who have made videos around this have all been saying that. Imagine like being the game developer.
Sure.
Giving that responsibility to IGN to be like, look, we want you to do a little bit of marketing for us, maybe show off a little bit of gameplay. Do you mind doing that? IGN like, yeah, no problem. We're gamers. We know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then getting probably some absolute noob who has no idea, probably hasn't touched a game in their life. Honestly, they would never ever tell you, but I kind of want to know who did that.
Sure,
I kind of want to know the person
totally.
at IGN who played that and was like, yeah, that's good enough. Like it genuinely, it surprised me that it got past quality control.
Right. Did anyone actually look at this video?
Yeah. Did anyone even like, it genuinely felt to me like someone had hacked into IGN, played the game really badly and went, yep, that'll do. Let's upload that. Like it was really not. And I was just like, wow, this. Jeez. I watched it and went, God, Redfall looks bad.
Okay, then, I'm going to have to find it then.
There's a couple of people on Twitter who I follow who also got preview and were able to film a couple of minutes with the game and did their own sort of like montage of them like playing the game, and it's infinitely better.
Okay.
We're talking about people whose job it is to do a similar thing to IGN but on a much lower scale, who are just like actual gamers who know what they're doing and played the game like properly.
Sure.
It honestly was kind of embarrassing.
I mean, I'm gonna have to watch it, but that's
you definitely have to.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help their case of you're not actual gamers. It doesn't help the fact of like, are people checking your videos?
It's a massive L. It really is. It's a massive L.
Yeah.
And it kind of made me feel bad, honestly. I was like, oh, I don't know, like, why did you do that?
But then again, will it really damage? I don't know. I mean, can IGN's reputation be more damaged?
It's done something. It's definitely had an effect. It's had a ripple effect.
Well, in my opinion,
I want to see if the video is even still up.
God, I mean,
I'd be very surprised if it is.
I'll let you know.
Oh no, it's still up.
Okay.
I cannot believe that, but it is still up.
How long is the video?
Okay, it now has 17,000 dislikes and 1.4 thousand likes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's increased. let me just see if I can read out some of the comments really quick.
Please.
Gotta give IGN credit for making any game they play excruciating to watch. Honestly, the fact that IGN chose to show this gameplay perspective instead of anyone else's genuinely Makes me wonder how they all did compared to this guy. When you give your little
Or
brother the
gal. Let's not be
controller or
sexist.
gal, yeah. It was really neat seeing this person play a video game for the first time in his or her life.
Oh god.
Classic IGN gameplay. This is so wholesome. I'm assuming it was your bring your kid to work day at IGN office.
Fuck yeah.
This is how the term journalistic difficulty got invented. Jesus Christ, they're just getting demolished in the comments. I'm surprised they haven't even they haven't got rid of the comments, because usually IGN hide behind that kind of stuff. They would have disabled the comments. They probably would have took down the video, but
Well, maybe they're just thinking like, is what it is. It's up now. Like, if anything, it makes people talk about IGN. I guess.
yeah, I was gonna say any press is good press, right?
Right.
So
Right. So could be. Could
there we
be.
are. There we are.
And you've also got on here, Jay, Vampire Survivors.
Yes. So
So
I've been a bit bored. Can't really
okay.
be asked to play games at the minute because I'm just sort of filling the time between now and Dead Island. So
Sure.
I thought, why don't I play Vampire Survivors? I probably put about 8 hours in. Actually, probably less than that. Probably about 6 hours in. Hadn't really got that far with it, so I thought, yeah, I'll try and actually complete it. Try and actually unlock some stuff.
Sure.
Um, and I managed to do pretty well. The game has 162 achievements,
Yeah, I
including
did see that.
DLC.
I did see that.
It has 1,330 G. I currently have before I started playing at the beginning of Easter, I had maybe 40 achievements, maybe 30. I now have 136 out of 162.
How many hours have you played it?
27 hours.
So you're pretty good at the game then.
Yeah, I can play the game pretty well. I have most of the characters unlocked. I haven't really started the DLC yet, but
Is DLC
I'm
free?
almost there. No, it's actually the DLC is currently on sale for £1.79.
How is it like
So
a
I was
big
like, yeah.
expansion or is it like
It's like a couple levels, couple extra characters, couple extra items, just like usual
okay?
stuff.
All right.
But I think I only have 9 more achievements of the main game, and then the rest of it is DLC. So I've pretty much 1,000 G'd this game.
You've done really well there.
But it is a very very fun game, and it won Game of the Year at the BAFTAs. So
Sure.
and I can see why, because it is very very fun.
Sure.
And I know me and you spoke about it before when you played it very briefly. But it is one of those games you kind of just have to stick to, and then once you've played it for, I think after about 8 hours, it really kicks off, because then you've unlocked enough to be able to like get to the end and actually understand how the game works, and
Sure.
understanding what items are actually good and which ones are bad and stuff like that. So and how how to maneuver around the map without dying, stuff like that.
So it
Like
sounds like
it's
you're.
just all like controlling. It's a lot of management of movement and items and money and stuff.
It's really cool to see an independent game do so well, and really like be a cult classic through word of mouth or word of internet.
Yeah.
Um, how much you enjoy? You're obviously enjoying it quite a bit then at the moment.
I've been playing it non-stop for the last 3 days. Yeah.
Oh,
There's
Jesus
also new
Christ.
DLC for it coming out in June. So
As in to pay for as well, or
yeah, but it's
okay.
so cheap. The DLC I think the DLC is literally like £3, not on sale. So I was like,
So
I even
it's,
bought the game. Like it's currently on Game Pass, but I bought the game.
oh wow, what? Because you want
I
to
bought the
support
game
it,
and the
or
DLC because I was like, yeah, I want to support this game. Plus, I wanted to own it. Like, if for any reason this game comes off Game Pass, I want to still be able to play it.
that's cool, dude.
So
That's
I'm
really
like,
cool.
yeah, man, these guys definitely deserve it, 100%.
That is.
I can almost guarantee
Wow.
after getting that win or for the game of the year, their sales probably skyrocketed more than likely. So
I hope so. I hope so. That's really cool, though. I
no,
think.
it's a very well deserved win on their part, and it is a fantastic game. It's probably one of the first indie games I played in a while that gave me a sort of similar feeling to like old indie games that were popular,
Mm,
like the original sort of 360 arcade sort of
sure.
style of indie, where I was like, oh, this thing kind of blew up,
Sure.
because it's on mobile as well. You can play it on mobile.
What? Just for free, or
I think you just have to buy it, from what I remember, but
okay?
I don't know.
That's cool.
No, great game. Really enjoyed it.
Are you gonna go for the 1000G, the platinum, or
I don't know if I'm gonna keep playing it after tomorrow because tomorrow is the beginning of season 4 for Overwatch. So I'll probably be
are you
doing
going
that.
back to Overwatch now?
Once season 4 comes out, yeah,
Okay.
gives me a whole reason because part of the reason why I stopped playing it was because I'd already got to the end of the battle pass, so I was like, well, I might as well not really much reason for me to keep going. Once I get to the end of the battle pass, I'm good, you know. And I'd say so. A season usually lasts, I think, 54 days. It's like 8 weeks or something, 7 or 8 weeks. And I probably play the game for at least 2 weeks just to get the battle pass done, and then I'm good. So on and off, you know.
Okay.
But I will say season 4 is probably the best battle pass they've had for any season so far.
Okay.
In terms of like the way the skins look, the skins are like top quality this season. So very happy about that.
Cool.
Although the new character they released looks like dog shit, so I'm not gonna be playing them.
What are they called?
It's a character called Life Weaver. I think
Great.
he's a Thai support character. He's like a healer.
Thai
This
as in
giant
Thai
from
as
Thailand.
Right.
Right. Yeah, because obviously, I mean, Overwatch is about people from different countries, right? It's almost like Street Fighter. Like every character is from a different country.
Oh, cool. Was
Uh,
Tekken like that back in the day with like Eddie and stuff like that, or was that not like Nina and
yeah,
not?
similar. I think. Yeah, I think is not Nina Russian and
Mm.
Eddie is Jamaican,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Very similar. Yeah, I mean, you know, Street Fighter is synonymous with that, with like Blanca being Brazilian and E Honda being Japanese and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Okay, all right.
So yeah,
All right. Well, let me talk you
good stuff.
through what I've been doing then.
I mean,
So,
knowing
go
you,
on,
you've
sorry.
probably played like 20 different games.
Yeah, it's not
I don't
far
know
off.
how I'd. Oh god, that would really make my mind melt at this point.
I'm getting better. I've reduced some. So,
Okay.
Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. I can't remember
Yeah,
if
I
I've
saw
talked too
that.
much about that game, Jay, but tried
I'm
it out,
pissed
started it.
because I really want to play that. I have it and I still want to play it. But
It's you can definitely tell it was made within Platinum's golden era. Like it's an awesome game. It's
I also
definitely up there
think
with
it's
Bayonetta, I
the
think.
least Metal Gear game of the Metal Gear games
Also true.
because it was also made outside of Kojima.
But it
Kojima
was
had
made. He did have the
zero
original.
input.
No, he had the original idea / concept,
Yeah,
and
but he
then
didn't
he was
actually
happy
make
to
it.
hand it over to Platinum
Yeah,
as far as I'm
basically.
aware. Yeah,
Yeah. So
but
to me, it's not a Kojima game or a Metal Gear game.
sure.
It's just it's almost a little bit like when a producer makes a beat and is like, "Who wants it?" and then someone's like, "I'll have it," and then they're like, "Okay." But instead of it being called that person's beat, it's like, well, it sounds more like that person's beat, so we're going to say it's more like that person's beat.
Sure.
It's a weird comparison to make, but it almost feels like sharing something and it being called something else. I don't think it should have been called Metal Gear necessarily.
You could definitely tell it's made by Platinum Games in this
Yeah.
sort of era of Bayonetta and Vanquish, which I would argue is their golden era. And it plays really well still, like it's simple but effective. And, you know, you've got like the parry system, which I think you'd like. And the story is bombastic, Japanese, a little bit Metal Gear-y, I think.
So many memes. That game has been memed to hell.
No doubt. No doubt. It's
probably one of the most famous memes in history, actually.
It's absurd, but it is cool. But the reason I bring it up is because I have uninstalled it. I did enjoy playing it, but I feel like I've seen what it is, and I'm happy with that. I'm content with that. So
yeah,
it's done and dusted, as it were, for me. I will no longer look at it and go like, oh no. The next game is The Witness. So The Witness is a puzzle game, Jay, and I mentioned to you about a month ago that I'm feeling a little bit more puzzly at the moment. So
that's good.
Yeah. So I've tried it out because I know that everyone raves about it.
Star Wars game.
You what? Sorry.
You'll enjoy the new Star Wars game.
Puzzly.
It's supposed to be full of puzzles. Yeah.
Oh fuck. Okay.
I know.
So I tried it out. Obviously, everyone thinks it's like the best game ever in terms of puzzle games.
It looks
like,
good.
Up there with Portal 2.
How much does it cost? You know,
it's on Game Pass.
It is on Game Pass. I don't know what I looked on Game Pass. I couldn't see it.
Oh, hold on. Sorry, I might have gotten it on a Live Gold actually.
Yeah, I don't think it is on Game Pass. So I checked and I couldn't see it.
Let me just
I was pissed. I was like, oh, I really hope this is on Game Pass. I really want to play that. And I was like, nope.
If not, it is on. You might have it on PlayStation, but looking on. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Oh my god, where has it gone? But anyway, yeah, it's I think I got it through that.
Okay.
But it's a very simple game again. You know, you're just literally solving puzzles. I think there is a bigger thing going on, but it's pretty much solving puzzles. Unfortunately, Jay, because I am borderline an idiot, I didn't get very far. I
No.
got about probably a
Surprised.
10th of the way through the game, and that was it. And I could struggle on and go through it, and I might do one day, but I just don't feel like my
Were you not
mental.
following a guide?
Well, no, because then that ruins the purpose of playing the game.
Not necessarily.
I feel like.
I mean, what you'd probably do is you'd play the game until you got stuck. You'd then look at the guide and finish that particular one, and move on to the next, right? And then just keep going until you
All right, well,
finish.
this is a good conversation to have with you then, Jay, because yes, but then I do think part of the game is a bit like a Souls-like in that you should walk away, reflect, come back. But like you say, but then with a Souls game, you can't just look up a guide, right? You can look up hints and tips and weaknesses,
Yeah,
but
no, you can. You
yeah,
can
but you
look at the
can't you
guide.
still got to beat the boss, right?
Yes, you still have to have the get good ability,
Whereas a witness
Actually,
is very much like I'm going to look at the puzzle, I'm going to
yeah,
look at the
there's no need to
solution,
be good because it's just a matter of actual. It's a skill. It's not even a skill issue. It's just a brain power issue.
right? So yeah, it's games with gold. Sorry, bro. So in that instance, I'm a bit like, well, do I stay stuck or do I oh, hold on, respect it and just walk away? Because like in my mind, Jay, looking up the guide, like what's the point? But I get your point in that if I looked up a
It's
guide,
a
I
good
could just
argument to
move on.
have, right? Because I feel like there's two ways of looking at it. You're either a person who it's weird. Like it's almost if you've got the mentality of someone from the 80s or 90s, where because there was no guides before, you had to walk away and come back. Whereas nowadays we live in the age of you can just look it up. So why don't you? Like I guess it's a matter of whether and how it affects your enjoyment of the game. Like to me, I enjoy a game more knowing that if I get stuck, I can just look up the solution. And I think that says more about when I was born than anything else. Whereas, some people would be like, well, that's just cheating or whatever. But it's not necessarily cheating. It's just I know I'm going to get more enjoyment out of finishing the game rather than getting stuck and getting frustrated and then having the anxiety of not having gotten it done. Like to me, it's more of an anxiety issue. Like if
Mm,
I get stuck, I'm going to be anxious about not being able to get past it. And the
mm,
longer I leave it, the worse my anxiety would get. So
sure.
I have to finish it now. Like in my mind, if I don't progress, then I'm just going to stress. So it's probably a personal thing, but I mean, would you not get anxious about that? Does that not affect you?
I'll need to reflect on it if that's okay with you. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
unfinished games cause anxiety just yet, but
Well,
they
it's not
might
even
do.
just about unfinished games. I think it's just about, like, in my mind, I don't.
What would cause me anxiety is looking at my games and apps, right? Seeing that I've got it installed and just knowing that I can't get past that bit. That would
There you
give
go.
me
That's
anxiety.
that's pretty much what I mean. Yeah.
Because
That's
I'm
what I
thinking
mean.
there, I'm
But the
looking
thing
at
is,
like,
I
oh,
can
I
I
want to
can
play, but I
bypass that.
can't.
I can
Yeah,
bypass it by just looking it up.
right,
Like,
right,
no
right,
need for anxiety on that anymore because I can cure myself of it
right.
immediately, and it's like, oh, thank God. Like I can just inject myself with anti-anxiety medication by looking it up,
Sure. But
and it's
what
like,
about
bellissimo.
what about like a paper Sudoku or crossword then? Like, would you look up the answer if you're doing it and you're like,
That is a really fucking good question.
just to put it in perspective of how I think about it,
What I might do in that instance is potentially
ask someone?
like no, right? So a paper one is difficult because that genuinely is just a brain power issue. Whereas if you like see you're playing a Sudoku on an app, you can like do a hint and it'll give you one for free, right? There's that. At that point, I probably just wouldn't play the Sudoku anymore. I'd be like, right, I've hit my limit of brain power. I'm done.
Hmm,
Done with that. Do something else. But I feel like if you've already paid for a game, it's a bit different because you kind of have to finish it. Whereas Sudoku is probably not that expensive, you know. It's
Sure.
probably one in the newspaper or something, you know, wherever it might be. So I think that's
Sure.
more of an investment level of how much money have you already put into it. I now need to then, you know. Can you hear that?
From me?
Yeah, can you hear that? Like the rain is hitting my window so hard right now.
I can't hear it. No, we haven't got any rain anymore. Have you still
Dude,
got?
it is heavy rain right now.
Really?
Like heavy. Like I feel like there's a big storm going on outside.
Fair.
Which is annoying because I left my umbrella at work the other day, so if it
Oh.
rains in the morning, I'm buggered.
So you got a coat?
Yeah, I got a coat. But yeah, you know.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna think about what you said, Jay. I'm gonna think about it a lot.
Yeah, it's one of those sort of like, you know, things where it's almost like you have to form your own opinion on how you feel about something.
I understand.
And like
Do you know,
having to figure it out.
Do you know what frustrates me, Jay? Is that if I do that, I will then think about having a conversation with someone, and they go, "So did you use a guide?" And I'll go,
"Yeah." So it's that. So what you're saying is there's a stigma around using guides.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just need to own
okay,
it.
let's say this, right? And say someone comes to you and said, "Did you use a guide for that?" And what do you say?
I'll say
Just
yeah.
role play. Okay. What's their response? More than likely going to be.
Ooh.
Because it could go one or two ways, more than likely. I could either go,
Me
"Oh
too.
yeah, I use a guide too,"
Yeah.
or "Why would you do that? Isn't that cheating?"
Mm.
And I'm like, "Well, what? The guide wouldn't exist if it was cheating."
Oh, is that true though, Jay?
I think
true?
So. Like a guide is supposed to guide you. It's not supposed to actually like give you the answer necessarily.
It's a good point. It's not a cheat code. It's a guide. That's the name of the game. It's a guide.
It's a guide.
It's a walkthrough.
It is a walkthrough.
It's not meant. Oh, it's so true.
Let's put it this way, right? Persona 5.
Okay.
I could not 1000G that game without a guide.
Right.
It is statistically impossible.
Right.
I would have had to have played that game for probably about 1,000 hours of it. I probably would have had to play through it 5 or 6 times to actually figure out exactly what I would have had to have done. Probably longer. I don't have that time. My time is too valuable.
I bet there's people out there though who have done that,
it's more about time. Time is money.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of it, so I need to use it in the best way possible.
You've convinced me, Jay.
I think that's the best way to look at it. It's just more about time management. You got to think to yourself, right? The reason why you're playing all these games in your back catalogue is because you know that you haven't really got the time to think about it later.
Yeah.
Because if there's new games coming out, you're gonna have a bigger and bigger catalogue. So you need to make use of your time now and get them out of the way. And the best way of doing that is using a guide, if you ask me.
So
I think you've almost lost your what's the word? It's almost like you've given up your right to take your time on a game if it's in your back catalogue, because you've almost like missed the opportunity to a degree. Like if you thought to yourself, I'll play this game, but I won't ever use a guide because I want the full experience, but it came out 5 years ago, probably a little late.
Sure.
Because at that point you want to be on to the next thing, right? So to get this out of the way, you need to be able to use a guide to be able to get out of the way. But I don't really look at it as like getting out of the way. I look at it more as like my enjoyment overall. Like I'm going to enjoy the game knowing that I actually made it, even though I used a guide. Like the guide, I've never had that problem with the guide stigma in my head. It's just never it doesn't correlate.
Sure.
Stigma does not affect me in the slightest. Like if someone asked me to use a guide, I'd be like, hell yeah, I did.
Sure.
You kidding? I don't want to waste 1,000 hours on a game where I could only spend 100 and get it done first time. Kidding?
Yeah.
My time is precious to me.
Yeah.
I got shit to do.
I bet there's people out there though who
basically, if someone judges you for using a guide, what they're basically saying is, oh, so you care about your time. Why would you ever care about your time? That's like, well, fucking, it's my time. I've got to care about it.
Sure.
So they're basically saying, fuck your time, is what they're saying. They don't appreciate you.
I get that. But there must be people out there, Jay, who, let's say, are less busy or whatever, who genuinely would take some sort of pleasure in doing it 5 times. And
if you've got that much time on your hands, you've got too much money.
As far as
I'm concerned.
Or not enough money, maybe, in some circumstances.
Or not enough. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
You're on either end of the spectrum, and I don't respect that. You need to be in the middle. You know me, I'm Goldilocks. I'm always in the middle.
In the middle. In the middle. Oh, that was a lovely conversation. That has
Comes full
helped a lot.
circle.
Yeah, that
Comes
has
full
helped a
circle. I'm
lot.
glad I could be of some service.
That does sort of relate to me bringing up something else in this segment, which is that trying
Please.
to find what to play next. But I think you've already answered
Mm.
that question for me, Jay, frankly, in that don't put yourself through hell. Like you
Yes, there's
say,
no
like,
need. Why? You've got so much like there's already like there's so much out there to help you. Why would you want to
yeah,
make it harder for yourself?
sure, sure. But
Make it
sometimes,
easier.
I will want that challenge and I know when I want it.
Yes.
I
You'll
get that.
know because it'll just make sense. Like something like a Wolong or a
Yeah,
Souls like requires the challenge.
yeah,
That's what it's there for.
yeah,
Whereas other games that can be done in 20 hours, like I'm not going to challenge myself.
yeah,
Just get it done. Get
yeah.
her done.
Get her done. By the way, Jay, I'm actually stuck on Wolong, which makes me feel like a bad
Yes, it's
player
funny.
because I
So
feel I keep hearing people saying like no one's got I didn't die in this game. I'm like, shut
no,
up,
screw them. They did.
please.
It's funny. I obviously have you saved to my home screen, and you're
Sure,
like the first thing on my home screen. So I constantly check what you've been playing, how many days you've been off, and how many days since your last achievement, stuff like this. And I'm like,
sure.
whoa, long 4 days ago. Wow, he hasn't been playing this very much. And then I check a little while ago. It's like 12 minutes ago. I'm like, oh, okay, he's playing it. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's back to it, kind of thing.
I am. I'm trying. I'm stuck on the boss with the horse. Is that normal or is
Hang
that
on. Oh, dude. That was difficult. That was probably the if I that was the boss that when I finished it, I was like, oh, I have to get good at this game.
okay?
To me, that was like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this game. That was the boss that I got stuck on for so long that I actually had to get better at it to get past.
Okay.
That I'd say that point you're at the point in the game now where you're like, oh, if I don't get better now, I might as well give up.
Yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah.
the bit where I have to. I'm not joking when I say this. I had to play that boss fight until I deflected every single hit.
Mm,
I played that boss fight and I probably got hit once.
I hear you.
Because I was like, by the end of my training, I was so fucking good at deflecting. I was like, I can beat the rest of this fucking game. I'm good at this shit now. I get it. I understand it. Like the gaming development of this, like the way they designed it, is perfect.
Did you attack as well in between deflect?
Yeah, so you have to learn. There's definitely like a thing on here on that particular boss where there's a certain section where you have to deflect everything and then not attack, and then you have to deflect everything and then attack once. Or I think you have to hit twice, back up, and then deflect a bit, hit twice, back up, and there's certain phases you have to go through.
Yeah, sure, sure.
But once you understood it, man, it's so fucking satisfying. Oh, I didn't even have to look at the guide for that. I just sort of figured it out. That was
Cool.
actually a nice
It's good to
challenge.
hear though that you had a
I loved
challenge
that boss
too.
battle.
It's
It was frustrating but fun because it actually taught me how to play the game.
yeah,
And I
totally.
respect it so much for that. I respected the
Yeah,
hell out of it for it. I was like,
agreed.
oh, thank God.
Agreed.
Like it made me so much better at deflecting.
Well,
And
look,
I'm
dude,
guessing you took my advice about having to block before you deflect or whatever.
I'll be honest, Jay. I'm not actually doing that much.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I recommend it. It's definitely one of the things where you need to basically walk around and know you almost have to know when they're going to attack, and when they're about to attack, you hold block and then deflect. Because what happens is there's like a certain thing in the animation where there's a certain amount of frames when they're hitting you while you're blocked, you can still deflect. Whereas if you try to gauge it and not hold the block, you're not going to be able to see when it's hit you. So there's no sort of visual of the frames. But then also there's a lot less time in the animation for you to be able to deflect it. So there's actually more of a chance of you deflecting it while you're blocking than not. So I recommend it.
And you're not talking about walking around with the block held down. You mean I have to
No,
press it
you just
right
need to, you need
before?
to, not right before, but like a good 2 seconds, maybe 1 or 2 seconds
Sure,
before. So like
sure.
if he's coming towards you, it's like hold block, get ready, deflect, 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 and but holding block while you're deflecting too, because what happen is if he like does an attack that
Quite a
surprises
few,
you
yeah, yeah.
after one of the deflects and you're not holding block, you're gonna get hit by it.
Okay,
Like, there's a couple strays where if I wasn't blocking after I was deflecting, you're still gonna get hit by it. So
okay,
it's better to just take the damage or not take the damage by blocking, basically.
okay.
But
All
you
right,
can do that whole boss fight without getting hit once, and
sure,
it's fairly doable.
sure.
So, yeah, I'll be very proud of you. Let's just put it that way. If you manage to defeat that boss, I'll be very proud of you.
Okay, all right. Understood. I will work on it.
But man, that was probably the boss I spent the longest on. I probably spent like 2 or 3 hours on that single boss.
That makes me feel a lot better, Jay. I was starting to think I was really bad at the game.
That's a interesting boss. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, but
But
like you
most
say, it
fun.
stays in your mind, right? It stays in your mind.
Wolong will forever be in my brain of like most memorable games I've played in the last decade. It's so memorable.
Dude, this conversation is weight has lifted from my shoulders for sure.
From
For
your
sure.
soul,
From
yeah,
my
that was a bit
soul.
of a Freudian slip right there.
From my soul and my shoulders.
Yeah, that's where your soul is, in the shoulders.
The other game, Jay, was a Microsoft Quest game where it was like you have to Microsoft Rewards. You have to get 3 achievements on one of these games. So I picked it. It's like a Heroes thing, and I played
Okay.
Rise: Son of Rome. Remember the Xbox One launch title?
Yes, which by the way, I've heard a lot of people talk about they actually wouldn't mind a sequel to that game.
Well, that's the
I hear
rumor.
people talk about it all the time. I don't know why.
I've got to say, Jay, the combat is similar to like a Batman Arkham Knight in that, you know, you like hit, attack, parry, and it's third person. And the graphics are still amazing. Apparently, the story's really good. I think it's a little bit repetitive, but to be fair, the game's massive as well. Like they want you to do like multiple playthroughs. There's like like an overall meta level going on. There was this big multiplayer thing going on. Like it's a pretty big game. And obviously, if you're a gamer like me and you, it's probably the go-to game at launch, other from an Assassin's Creed or a Call of Duty. So I can totally see why it's got a bit of a cult following in that respect. And it's quite interesting playing this game so many years later because like I played it for like half an hour, 40 minutes, got the achievements, but I had a good time with it. And I want to bring it up to you just because it is an interesting game. And it's one of those games which will forever live on because it's a launch title, you know, and I think that there's always a place for that.
It's funny. I feel like from what I've heard, people say that graphically it's probably one of the better games that holds up.
Totally.
But maybe in terms of like actual gameplay, it wasn't maybe as solid
Definitely.
as many others. I don't know. Rise is one of those ones where I saw it and I was like, this just doesn't look good to me. Like,
Sure.
This is very not. Like it felt almost like a Kinect game that got taken off of Kinect. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I thought this was one of those things where they initially had it. As
There was a
some
lot
sort
of Kinect
VR-y type
functionality to
thing.
it, to be fair.
Yeah, and I think that era of Xbox is probably the worst era of Xbox I've ever had. Like that 2013 to 2015 era of Xbox is probably the worst that Microsoft's ever been.
I think you're right, Jay, but I also know that in my heart of hearts, that period is when I played Titanfall, Black Flag, and Sunset Overdrive, and I love all 3 of those games to bits.
It's funny, I almost have that time as more of like a looming black cloud over my gaming experience.
Did you get an Xbox One at launch, by the way?
I did, yeah.
Okay,
I barely played it.
Okay.
I regret it, honestly. I actually regret getting the Xbox One.
Oh, that's sad.
I really do. I kind of wish I hadn't bothered. I kind of wish I just bothered getting a PS4 instead.
No, but that's not true because, like, towards the end of the life cycle, when we started the pod, you played it a lot.
Yeah, no, it was
Final Fantasy, AC. You played it a lot.
I got all the ACs done. I did. Yeah, I think I probably would have preferred to have bought it secondhand, like 2018, 2019, and then done all that with it. But no, I kind of see it as almost like the grey area or like the bad period of my gaming history.
Wow, I can't believe that.
Yeah, so the end of 360 to the end of 360 was like sort of the golden age, and then that beginning of Xbox One was like, well, it's funny. Like I almost see it like a movie, right? Where like the 360 was like the amazing beginning of the movie. The Xbox One was sort of like the really harsh, shitty part of the movie where like the character goes through hardships.
Sure.
And then the Series X and PS4 and PS5 is sort of where they get to the end of the movie, they beat the main villain. It's like everyone goes home happy, you know.
Sure.
That's kind of how I feel like my gaming experience has gone so far.
Sure.
So yeah, let's go with that.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Look, I'm about to conclude my segment anyway. The last thing, Jay, as you know, Division 2. You helped me finish it. We did the last 2 strongholds. It's uninstalled now. I don't feel the need to play the DLC, even though I've paid for it. But I got the game for like £8 with the DLC, so I'm not too fussed about it.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things you can always come back to if you feel like you need to. But,
that's true.
DLC is pretty fun, but it's a bit of a slog if you're really not up for it, you know.
Sure, but if you are,
you really have to be in the mood for it.
Yeah, totally. So Just very quickly on the game, Jay, just because I know I've discussed it with you, but I really do like quite a few things about it. And I know that a lot of people liked it when it came out. I really do like the locations. I really do like the overall, it's tapping into that, to be very general here, it's tapping into that boy fantasy of like, being in the army or being a special
Guns.
agent and like like exactly,
Yeah,
guns,
it's like almost like a
squads.
Fallout-y type thing,
Exactly.
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from.
And the gameplay is solid. It's fun to play. There's plenty there.
It's funny that you make a good point. It is very much a male, seemingly enjoyable game, right? Like I feel like you wouldn't get many females who play Division and went, "Oh, I really like that." Like
Yeah.
it feels almost like what Pokemon was back in the day, where I feel like it was geared more towards little boys or just men, the male.
Sure.
Whereas nowadays, Pokemon, they introduced the fairy type, and it was like, oh, girls can enjoy it too.
Girls galore. Yeah.
But to be honest, some of my favorite Pokemon are fairy type Pokemon, so
sure.
they're fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's just one of those things, I think, like where Call of Duty, I'm not saying girls don't play Call of Duty, but let's be honest here. I imagine the majority of Call of Duty players are boys.
I'd honestly say it's probably like 85-15, if not 90-10, if not 95-5. It's probably like such a massive.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't
can't
be surprised.
It can't be anything
80,
lower
20.
than 80.
No,
Can't be
yeah,
anything lower than 80.
maybe 85. Yeah, I hear you. I do hear you. So yeah,
which isn't a bad thing.
That's true.
It sells phenomenally.
That's true.
Clearly.
And we love it. So
yeah.
So yeah, and like things can be made towards certain, like, is what it is, right? Like I'm not gonna be listening to that female podcast. It's really big. It's not interesting to me. You know what I mean? Is it? I want to say her name's Alex Cooper. Is it Alex Cooper? Is that her name?
I don't even know what you're on about.
She's like a massive podcaster. Lee spoke to me about her at the weekend. She's like the female Joe Rogan.
Oh, okay.
See, this is what I mean. We don't even know. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know her name either.
Not in our wheelhouse, clearly.
So Division 2, glad we did it. Glad we uninstalled it. I remember Elle telling me like, oh yeah, the map just resets when you finish the game, and I was like, no, not a chance. Not a Scooby-Doo.
It's probably one of the most disappointing end games, I think.
Just they could have done something else with it, right? But I guess it's no different to a New Game Plus, I guess, in some ways. So.
It's funny how like the gaming community is sort of standing up there a bit fed up with that whole sort of, RPG looter shooter with an end game, but no one seems to have mastered it yet other than Destiny, I think.
You reckon?
I don't know. What else? Who else has done a very good job of it, do you reckon? I guess Borderlands.
Borderlands
and
yeah, Alex Cooper. It's called Call Her Daddy.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah.
I didn't. Oh, yeah. No, I do.
She's
know
massive,
about that.
apparently. But
yeah,
anyway.
no, she is. There's actually quite a few female podcasters that have made a name for themselves over the last couple of years since COVID, I'd say.
Fair. Yeah. Sorry, are we talking about as in like resetting the world, Jay, or like New Game Plus? Or...
No, just in terms of like what you can do at the end for the end game of the game.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, sure. Well, Destiny's the go-to template, right?
When I was listening to some podcasts earlier, they made I think Alana Pierce made a good comparison about Redfall basically being Arcane's attempt at a Borderlands game.
Sure.
Apparently, it's very similar, and that made me go, "Hang on, that's a good way to look at it."
Why hasn't Borderlands been copied more, Jay?
That's a good question because it should be. It's fucking phenomenal.
Exactly. Like,
I'm surprised that nobody's
Destiny
come along
clones.
and been like, "Hang on, why don't we just do that?"
We get Destiny clones. We get Fortnite clones. Like,
this might be the closest thing we've had to a Borderlands clone.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
From what I've seen, gameplay-wise, it does look pretty similar.
I mean, Jay, what would you rather, a Borderlands game or a live service game? I know which one I would rather have. You know what I mean? Don't say live service game.
Depends on the IP.
Don't say live service game.
Depends on the IP. Depends on the IP. Let's put it this way. If you ask me, do I want to play the Suicide Squad game versus a new Borderlands game, I'd probably say Borderlands game. But I'd be very excited about playing both.
Sure, I get that.
It'd be close. It'd be closer than you'd think.
I get that.
Yeah.
It's we'll see. But yeah, look, it's done. It's wrapped up. I won't be going back to it. I'm glad I went back to it, especially playing with you. You know, I'm glad I finished it, but it's done. It's moving on. And with that, we reached the end of the show, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Any final words?
I'm sure there's something I forgot to mention.
As always.
Literally 10 minutes after I finish the podcast with you, I'm like, bugger. There is something else I've got written down on my pod ideas, but I'll save that for another time.
Okay. All right. No worries. Well, we'll wrap it up then, because I know usually we're running quite, well, not over, because we haven't got a time limit, but have a good week, everyone, anyways. We'll catch you when we catch you. And until then, enjoy gaming, soldiers. I'm waiting for a bye from you, Jay. You know, just...
Peace.
Okay, brilliant. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.